Good day, my name is Lucia Anelich from Anelich Consulting, but also from the Food Safety Summit. And I have the pleasure of introducing to you today Lee Griesel from Vianzo. Lee is a personal coach and she's an expert in this field and specifically in leadership development and culture. So Lee, such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thanks. Yeah, good to be here.
We will be introducing your session on day one in the morning, specifically around this issue. And, we talk a lot about food safety culture and how important it is in the food industry specifically. And we acknowledge that. But in my opinion, there is still a break in the link around what we perceive as human beings around us, things that happen around us, and how this impacts our behavior. And of course, this will be with a focus on the food industry. So I really would appreciate you just telling us a little bit more about that aspect.
Sure. So just in terms of what I've been involved in over the many years, we certainly need to recognize that as we've grown up, we've habituated certain ways of thinking and meaning making. And that obviously translates into the behaviors that we exhibit on a day-to-day basis. When we want something to change, our natural go-to is to try and change the behavior. The problem is that behavior change, which comes from teachers, parents, our managers, the leaders in the organization, it's not a sustainable long-term change. It's really a short-term win. And the reason for that is because our behaviors are a direct result of our thinking. And our thinking and our meaning-making strategies and beliefs, they sadly, for many of us, are actually flawed. So for long-term sustainable results, we really need to start there and to change how we're thinking and how we're making meaning so that then influences and impacts behavior. And that's really what we are going to be focusing on as part of the session at the Food Safety Summit.
Right, thank you for elaborating on that, Lee. On another issue, in the food industry, as any other, there is often a lot of unrealistic expectation placed on employees. And this, of course, can sometimes lead to terrible stress and pressure, and even underachievement in KPIs, for example, that might be set for a particular individual. And just getting up in the morning and getting dressed and having to go back into that environment, which could be rather toxic, can actually be rather downheartening. So how do we deal with this? Because I know you are planning a very interactive session as well at the summit. And I believe you have a role for me to play. And of course, I'm terribly intrigued to also understand a little bit more about the role that you envisage for me to play on stage on the day.
Sure. So we recognize too, one of our meaning making strategies and how we've learned to make meaning is often referred to as our own bias or confirmation bias. You've often heard that term sort of passed around. That directly impacts by how we process information cognitively, right? So sadly, we all kind of fall victim to cognitive distortions. So the role play will really help to highlight some of those cognitive distortions and could even support delegates to identify how they might be processing information and how those cognitive distortions have become part of their habituated way of making meaning. Now, you can recognize that when we've distorted an event or when we're thinking about an event and applying our own distorted way of thinking, we're then also not really making very good judgments. So what happens in the workplace, people start to feel judged. As soon as they feel judged, they get defensive. As soon as they get defensive, it creates this uncomfortable feeling in the workplace. And then people are totally demotivated. Don't want to get up in the morning, don't look forward to the Mondays. So it just becomes quite a vicious cycle. Now, cognitive distortions are also known as thinking traps. And one of the roles that I'll be asking you to play is of somebody who runs some of these cognitive distortions. And we'll be asking some of the delegates to see if they can identify the distortions that might become evident as we do the role playing. So it's quite an interactive session. May put you on the spot a little, but I think it'll be an interesting activity for many people to really witness.
Yes, I totally agree. This sounds absolutely intriguing and exciting. I think it's a lovely way to almost demonstrate a very serious matter in a more light-hearted way, so that we all can understand and engage a lot more in that way. So, all of you out there, you really need to be there if this is of interest to you, and I'm sure it is, because workplace environments are with us every single day of our lives, and it really can shed some light on everyone's behavior in a particular team and how we can make that better, in order, of course, to improve food safety culture at the end of the day. So we also are planning, Lee and I, some exciting news for you, because we are going to be collaborating on some training modules related to food safety, and of course the element that Lee can bring into the picture. So we will also be unveiling that at the Food Safety Summit, and it'll be a first for South Africa. So be sure to be there, and you can find all the information you need at www.foodsafetysummit.co.za. So thank you so much, Lee, for those insights into this incredible session, and I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I certainly look forward to the day. I think it's going to be really effective, and the collaborative things that we'll be working on in future are certainly exciting. So I look forward to sharing some of that information with your delegates too.
Thank you.